Well, hello, my friends. We meet again. It's been a while. Where should we begin? Today, on the first episode of Musical Mythbusters, we are taking a look at the pervasive, everlasting, and extremely controversial technique of cupping the microphone. Hated by purists and sound guys the world over, the cupping the mic meme really has become a sort of cultural touchstone in the metal community, right? You hate it, or you don't. You think it's a legitimate technique, or you don't, right? You kind of fall into those two separate categories. So today we're going to find out just exactly what does cupping the microphone do to the sound of your voice that is being produced through the microphone. And to do that, we are going to use the old trusty Shure SM58. Now, the SM58 is sort of the bog standard microphone that you are given or use, and I would say like 95% of the cases, to sing on stage, right? And if it's not an SM58, it's probably a clone of it, you know, a rip-off, a Behringer or something like that. But regardless, you're probably going to have a microphone which has the same sort of windscreen over the diaphragm of the microphone, right? This big silver thing on top. But now, what exactly is cupping the microphone? Normally, you hold the microphone like this, right? With your hand fully clear of the windscreen. However, some vocalists, instead of leaving their hand right here above, below the windscreen, they put it over top and encircle the windscreen with their hand, or in some cases, both their hands, and scream or sing into it to produce a different type of sound. But what exactly does this do to the sound, and why is this hated? That's what we're going to find out here today, and to do that, we're going to do 3 separate tests. Now, for each of these tests, I'll be singing as well as screaming into the microphones. I'll be singing, then I will do a high, mid, and low, as well as a guttural, just to see the difference in them. And for each category of singing, I'll be cupping the mic or not. The first test will just be me holding the microphone like this. Second test will be me cupping the microphone, sort of like a half cup, I guess you would say. And the third cup will be me fully cupping the microphone and putting it right over top of my mouth. You can already sort of hear the difference in sound of my voice, probably through this microphone here. Now, to keep the first 2 tests slightly consistent, I'll be using my thumbs as sort of like a guide to space my mouth out from the microphone. And then after all those tests are done, we will take a look at the audio files, look at the waveforms, and see just exactly what is happening, whether or not it's cheating, whether or not it's a good thing to do, whether or not it improves the sound in any way, and why do some people hate it. So we'll look at that after that. But before we get into the test here, guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here. It really helps out the algorithm. And to make this more interesting, if you do not do any of those, you have to give me 20 push-ups right now. Your choice, bro. And secondly, I would just like to thank all my patrons and YouTube members. You guys are the absolute best, and your support means the world to me. I really, really appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you come join, hang out in the Discord. There's some perks. Link is in the description. Anyways, let's get on with the test here, guys. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. I will say just right away, you can just see the difference on the waveforms, like right here. Like I'm pointing at the screen, but like you can see, look at the difference in the waveform shapes. But we'll get to that right away. Okay, let's move on to the screams here. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. All right, so immediately just looking at this, you can see that the cupped times I do the microphone is incredibly clipped. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to re-record the cupped versions, but on a much lower gain on the microphone. As you can see when I'm singing sort of normally into the microphone, doesn't have those clipping problems, perfectly gained stage. But let's just try dropping it back down while cupping it for both the clean and the mid screams, and I'll do this going further on. So we're learning as we're going here.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Back to the normal gain level, you can just even like see on the screen here right away. I know you can't see all the audio tracks, but right away you can see that, you know, the gain is much lower. So we'll see how that sounds. I'm curious, very curious. Let me just redo the clean one here.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
All right, gain is back where it was before, so let's redo it.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
All right, immediately I can tell that, you know, my, even like the half-cupped one's going to be clipping like crazy. I think that definitely plays of why sound guys and other audio engineers kind of hate that. But we'll get into that after this. Let me finish recording these here.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
I mean, holy shit, look at that waveform. Like, holy shit. Anyway, so we're bringing the gain back down again, and we're going to try the lows.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
I mean, just like sonically through my ears, I can definitely hear the difference already. Yeah, okay, let's move on to gutturals, and then we'll do highs at the end here.
Between your velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between your velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
I know this one's just going to be messed up already.
Between your velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between your velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
All right, let's finish this up with highs now.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
I think my highs are definitely my low point in vocals, though.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
I can tell this was going to clip like crazy.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
All right, okay, cool. So that's all 16 vocal tracks recorded here. Give me a second. I'm just going to time align all of them. I'm not going to edit anything. No AQ, nothing like that. And then I will see you guys right back to the comparison stage. And then after that, we will get to our conclusions. All right. Okay. So I've gone and time aligned all the vocals just so it's much easier to tell. And I think one of the conclusions we could reach right away is that cupping the microphone definitely increases the volume of your vocals, right? Because if you think about it, right, when you hold the microphone like this and I speak, the sound waves go all these directions as well. You know what I mean? Like through. When I do like this and put my mouth up to it, all those sound waves, all those extra ones that would have otherwise escaped into space, this space, not actual space, you know what I mean, get trapped in there, right? And it increases the volume. In essence, it's sort of like a built-in compressor in a way, right? So, okay, let's listen to the clean vocals here first. Here is me singing with not cupping the mic.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Sounds like a normal mic. Now let's try like the half cup.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Definitely adds a little bit of color into that, and it's a little bit louder as well. One thing that I noticed, could have been my performance as well, but the plosive sounds. And it's probably because I was like singing to my hands that I hear the plosives, you know. Okay, let's listen to the full cup.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
On the fully cupped one, you can definitely hear that it's beginning to clip digitally, right? The signal, which originally was okay, right, when you're holding the mic normally, I guess, right? When you do this, all of a sudden it's way too loud and it's hitting the limiter. And I think that is the main reason why people get upset about it, right? Especially if, let's say, you are at a sound check, right? And you're doing like, you know, check 1 2, check 1 2, as people usually do, right? You know, you sort of, it's sort of awkward. You're up there, you know, check 1 2, check, right? You're probably standing a little bit further back from the mic. I don't personally, I played a lot of local shows. I've never seen once somebody go, check 1 2, check, or even check 1 2, check. Now, the reason why this would be a bad thing is if the sound guy is leveling the microphone for your voice here on the non-cupped one, and then you do the cupped singing, it's going to be far louder than he intended it to be, and it's probably going to hit his digital limiter as well. Thus, he might turn down your volume, and then the next part of the song, you stop cupping or it's less intense. Then he's got to turn your mic back up again, and he's got to try to level it out as you're messing around with the volumes of the microphone yourself. Are you getting what I'm saying here? And now I think we're beginning to understand why people dislike it. But what about the sound? Let's listen to the gain turned back down with the cupped mic here. Now, it is a lot quieter because I did turn the gain down, so I'm just going to briefly boost the volume just so we can hear it a little better.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Right, and sort of looking at the waveforms here, you can see the peaks aren't as high and the lows aren't as high. It really sort of, it's like a built-in compressor, and it sort of adds a little bit of grit to it. In fact, I kind of like that sound. It's missing a little bit of high end, but that is a very interesting sound. Not bad, not bad. Let's hear them together.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to the screams now. So that was the clean vocals. All right, here are the mids. Now, here is really where I think it becomes much more apparent what's going on, right? Especially when you're screaming. You don't ever often see clean vocalists, good ones too, ever cup the mic, right? You almost never see somebody singing like this unless they're trying to achieve a specific effect, right? In fact, the best singers will actually control the distance between their mouth and the microphone. That's a very sus movement, right? But often you'll see when they hit high notes with a higher perceived volume, right? They'll go, ah, and like hold the microphone further back, right? And in essence, they are helping to control the volume, and that's what a good singer does. So this is uncupped, first of all.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Sounds like a mid scream. Sounds decent. Now let's listen to the half cup.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Interesting. I think that changed the character of the screams a lot more than with the clean singing, right? It definitely changed it. Listen to that one more time.
Between the velvet lines, between the velvet lines.
Interesting. You can tell it's it's a lot more compressed, and it feels like the mids are more pronounced, and it lost a little bit of the high end sound to it. Interesting. Let's hear the full cup now.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
You know, again, like with the clean singing, it's clipping like crazy. And again, that's probably annoying, and it sounds terrible. Although live, it could sound cool, but you know, if the microphone is artificially clipping, like that's not a great thing. It does add its own character of distortion to it, but let's hear the full cup now with the gain lowered.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Interesting. Do you guys hear that? It kind of almost sounds like a little bit doubled. Let me just turn that up.
Between the velvet lines, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Do you guys hear that? It sort of sounds like there's almost like a chorus effect on it or some other effects, but that's dry. There's nothing in this signal chain. I've done nothing to the audio clips. That's literally this audio through the Scarlett into the drive. So do you guys hear that? It definitely provides like some different sounds to it. It sounds much different than the normal screen. Let's compare them back and forth again. Uncupped.
Between the velvet lies.
Full cupped, but lowered gain.
Between the velvet lies.
Yeah, it definitely missing a lot of high end, and there's sort of like this frequency swirling, maybe you would call it. And I assume maybe that's from all the sound sort of reverberating inside my hands before, right, it gets sent out. Right before it dissipates, right? Otherwise, like the sound would be going out. It definitely does change and color the sound of your scream, but at the same time, it vastly increases the volume of it, maybe making weak screams sound better or something along those lines. But, you know, do you consider a compression pedal cheating on a guitar chain? You know what I mean? You should be aware what it will do to your sound, especially if you're performing live, right? So maybe if you're planning to cup the mic, maybe lower the volume of your own screams a little bit. I tried my best to keep the volume and the performance consistent between them, right? Okay, let's move on to the lows now.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like a low vocal. Sounds not bad. Here is like a medium cup.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Yeah, again, you can definitely hear a change in the character of the screams there, right? It's losing some of the low end, it's losing some of the high end. You know, even though it's a low scream, there is definitely some high end, and it's definitely sort of like funneling the sound, right? It's sort of like constricting the waveforms. Right? Okay, let's look at it through a parametric EQ and see the difference here.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. In addition to just being a lot louder, you can tell that more of the sound is focused in the sort of mid-range here. So just for curiosity's sake, let's put the clean vocals through a parametric EQ so we can sort of see what the frequencies are doing here. So here is uncupped.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Now let's go to the cupped version.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely tell there's a big difference in the sort of frequency spectrum of those two sounds. Very, very interesting. All right, okay, so yeah, here's the full cup.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Again, like clipping like crazy. And I think this is where a lot of the hate towards cupping the mic comes from, right? This sort of artificial distortion that is created by it, right? If you make a terrible scream, maybe without that much distortion, natural distortion from the voice, sound a lot more distorted live. This is like a technique that you can use, but you have to use it properly. Otherwise, it's going to sound like ass, like that. Now, let's listen to that same fully cupped, but with the gain reduced.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Again, you can sort of hear that sort of swirling frequencies sound. It sort of sounds kind of cool, but I think I like the original uncupped version better.
Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Like, it's a cool sound, but I think the other one sounds better, and you could do more with that sound later. Do you know what I mean? Okay, but let's move on to gutturals. Okay, so here's the gutturals uncupped.
Between your velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
And I know that kind of sounds terrible, but let me just put my normal vocal chain on that real quick, and then I'll take it away just to show what a huge difference that makes.
Between your velvet lies, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Right, so you edit that vocal, you put some more stuff on it, sounds a whole lot better. But let's get rid of this again. That's just me trying to cope with that, making that sound a little bit better, right? Okay, but let's listen to that same thing, just half cupped.
Between your velvet lies, there's
To be honest, that one sounds pretty good. That one sounds not bad. I think, like, if I had to choose between those two sounds to work with, I'd probably use that one. Now, looking at the full cupped version, you can just tell it's just clipping like crazy, but, you know, let's listen to it anyways. Yeah, it cupped like crazy, sounds terrible. Again, if you are a vocalist and you are doing your sound check uncupped, and then you cup the mic, that is the signal that you are providing to the front of house sound, right? That's what people are hearing. That sort of terrible, clipped like crazy sound. And it could be even more clipped too, right? You know, you probably could have increased the gain on the normal singing a little bit more, right? And if you do it, it's going to be crazy clipped, yeah. Okay, so here is the fully cupped but lowered the gain of the signal coming in. Interesting how much quieter that got. There must have been some frequency in gutturals that caused that to sort of get maybe absorbed by my hands a little bit. It doesn't seem to have that same swirling frequency sound. Let me just turn that up a little bit so we can hear it a little bit better. Okay, now let's listen to the uncupped version. Yeah, okay, so for the gutturals especially, cupping the mic really seems to rob them of that sort of guttural character. All right, so here is the highs, no processing.
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to sell, yeah.
Just for funsies, what does that sound like if I put on the vocal processing that I normally do for my vocals? This is also supposed to be put in a mix, right?
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to sell, yeah.
Oh, much better, right? This is like some saturation, de-essing, lots of compression, a little bit of distortion. So that's one thing to keep in mind too, guys. Like a lot of times when you hear people's screams, they're fully dressed. Like, you know, look at the vocal chain I got going on here. 9 plugins, right? Nectar 4 has like a couple plugins working in it as well. So if you're practicing vocals like in your car and you think you don't sound very good, just know that actual vocals are highly, highly processed, especially in compression, right? Let's hear the half cup.
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
It's clipping, and I'm hearing weird frequencies swirling around there. That does not sound good. I'm almost scared to listen to the fully cut version.
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Sounds terrible. Again, if you're doing your sound check uncupped and then you cup and do highs, that's what you're giving to the audience, just so you guys are aware. Okay, but now, what about cupped with the gain lowered?
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
I think that sounds objectively worse than this.
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sounds worse. Again, because cupping the mic seems to focus the sound in the mids. You're losing a lot of that highs in your highs. Now, just for curiosity's sake, what does that sound like if we put the processing on the cupped vocals? Right? You heard how that sounds on the regular vocals, but how does this sound? How does it sound on the cup vocals, that is?
Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah. Between the velvet eyes, there's a truth that's hard to steal, yeah.
All right, I think you can safely say that sounds objectively worse. All right then, so you guys heard all those results. You can hear them for yourselves. What conclusions can we reach from this here? Well, I think first of all, in almost every circumstance, cupping the mic sounds objectively worse. You're losing a lot of the highs and you're losing a lot of the lows of your voice, right? A voice is not just made of the one solitary note that you're singing, right? There's lots of overtones, lots of rumbling, lots of other stuff that goes along with a person's voice. So when you cup the mic, you are essentially compressing your own vocals making them louder, but getting rid of a lot of the sonic information that probably just gets absorbed into your hands, right? Essentially, right, that's what sound insulation is, right? That's what this stuff does right here. It absorbs certain frequencies and does not reflect them back. So if you look, your hand, right, this is not a reflective surface, right? This is soft. There's tons of ridges. Your fingers, like there's crevices in there. This will absorb sound. First of all, when you cup, it doesn't let sound escape, but it also absorbs frequencies. And like you heard on a lot of those vocals, especially the mids and the lows, it really causes this weird like swirling, chorusing effect of, I think, frequencies. Your hands will absorb some frequencies, but not all of them, and will reflect some of them back into the diaphragm. And that's what I think is going on with some of those mids and lows, with the swirling kind of chorusing effect that you heard there, right? It doesn't sound very good. Now with like the gutturals and the highs, it sounds just totally worse. Totally worse. Way worse. Clean singing adds a little bit of character to it. I will say, I will give it that. It definitely adds a little bit of character to it. But on the whole, I don't think that makes it sound any better. I think you're better off just, you know, using the proper mic spacing to sing. Maybe if you want to hold it like a little bit cupped like that, I think that's probably not too bad. But I think on a whole, the reason why it gets hated so much is the volume thing, right? It just all of a sudden turns a regular vocals, which might not be hitting the limiter at all, turns it into a limiter smashing mess that really just sounds objectively terrible. Unless you're going for that like post-hardcore, you know, Chiodos type of scream, right? You fully cup the mic and like, unless you're going for that type of sound very purposefully, you know, I don't think you should be cupping the mic. And honestly, I'll be honest with you guys, I was ready to sort of bust this myth totally. I was ready to say cupping the mic isn't bad, you can do it, you know, doesn't sound bad. But I think we can definitely confirm this myth. Cupping the mic definitely sounds objectively terrible isolated. Whether or not in a live setting it might sound like a little bit better, focusing the sound spectrum, a little bit of added distortion, I can see that, maybe. But for the most part, don't do it. Save your sound guy the work. Don't blow the limiter. Just learn how to scream and sing properly and add more distortion to your own vocals, and I think that will be much better in the long run, as well as the sound guy won't hate you and you won't end up as like a laughingstock saying you're cupping the mic for cheating. That being said, there are a lot of vocalists who do cup the mic almost entirely and sort of do make it their whole thing. The first guy I can definitely think of right away is Mitch Lucker from Suicide Silence, right? That was his sort of whole gimmick, you know what I mean? You know, big knee up, like cupping the mic, right? And that makes sense. I bet he is sound checking, doing the exact same thing. But you probably aren't. And you're not Mitch Lucker either. So just don't cup the mic, man. Just learn how to scream properly. That being said, like if you're going for that extremely disgusting sound and the sound guy maybe knows that you're going to do that and can EQ and level your stuff properly, then I think it's fine. But I would say in like, let's say like 90% of cases, cupping the mic probably makes you sound worse. So I think we can confirm that myth, that cupping the mic is objectively bad, doesn't sound great, but I think we can add a little caveat to that myth that there are legitimate use cases for it, specifically like, you know, that Suicide Silence, deathcore, extremely distorted vocal sound, you know what I mean? But yeah, anyways, I've been Varvis. I hope you learned something from this video. I know I sure did. If you have any other myths that you'd like me to test here, guys, make sure you leave them down in the comments. Check out my Patreon. Appreciate you guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Otherwise, you got to give me 20 push-ups. I've been Varvis. Cheers.